If your church is going to get better, everyone has to get better together. This means looking within and raising our self-awareness. The challenge is, none of us like being corrected or being made to feel like we somehow fell short in our performance or somehow we didn't measure up or get it just right. And people don't really know how to handle helpful feedback. But we have to learn to embrace it if we truly want to get better as individuals, as a team, and especially as a church. So in today's podcast, we want to share how to build a culture of critique, giving and receiving helpful feedback. You ready? Let's do this. Welcome to the Small Town Big Church Leadership Podcast, a place where pastors, church leaders, and volunteers can grow themselves and the local church. We're pastors Brad and Misty Helton, church planters in rural America.
In Proverbs chapter 15, verses 31 and 32, it says, if you listen to constructive criticism, or that would be critique or feedback, you will be at home among the wise. If you reject discipline, you only harm yourself. But if you listen to correction, you grow in understanding.
So good.
So good. Listen, getting better is all about growing in our understanding of how things are versus how they need to be or how they could be. It's been said that growth doesn't come solely from experience, but rather from evaluated experience. Honestly, I think about it, Brad. I think that oftentimes we've heard it said that like experience is how we grow. But if you never look back to evaluate what you went through, and honestly, we ask people this all the time. This week we sat with someone and we said, what have you learned from this experience? And you can do that yourself, but you can also ask that of someone else to basically take the time to stop and ask yourself, what am I learning? Because with every experience, we should be growing, developing, getting better, right? So evaluated experience is really what helps us grow. If you're a parent, you can probably relate to this. One of the most powerful questions a parent can ask on the other side of your child's bad decision,
a young child or an older child, a grown child,
any age, is what did you learn from this experience, right? And it's easier for that conversation to happen between a parent and a child than it is for a team member and a leader.
Yeah, for sure.
It really is. But in a healthy team, it should be there. As a leader, it's our responsibility to create that healthy culture of critique or feedback. Growing up, I played sports. I love playing sports. And I want you to think about this when it comes to a team. It's expected that coaches are going to critique the players. Why? In order to make them better.
Yeah.
I mean, they obviously all collectively want to do one thing, and that is they want to win. With a game, it's on the fly. I mean, like in the game of basketball, you're going to call a timeout. Coach is going to bring you in for a 30-second huddle, maybe a 60-second, and what is he going to do or she's going to do? You are going to make quick corrections. You're going to make quick critiques, feedback. You need to do this, 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 and this. Let's go.
Feedback
and you are also
on the fly.
You're also encouraging. So it's like, we're going to bring some correction, but you're doing this, this, and this. Well, let's go, right?
Yeah.
Why? Because we're going to win. But why is it a challenge in organizations, whether that's in the church or in a secular organization, we somehow, we slow everything down. We let our emotions get all into the picture. We overthink things. And as leaders, it's like we're afraid we're going to hurt someone's feelings. And the person who is going to receive feedback oftentimes gets emotional. It's like we get defensive.
Right. And I don't think it's just in the church. I think just when we receive feedback, period, we can let our emotions get in the way, especially,
True.
even really on the field. I remember hearing this story of this football coach, and man, he had just he was notorious for his team just being a winning team. They had won just season after season after season after season. And as you begin to look deeper into his coaching strategy and really his leadership style, one thing that he was always known for was this. He says, if I don't correct everything, we won't have anything.
Wow.
If I don't correct everything, we won't have anything.
Don't let anything slide.
Don't let anything slide, even the littlest of things.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing him tell this story about how they were in a practice, and the quarterback was handing the football off to the running back incorrectly. And he said, stop. And he stopped the entire practice while the whole entire team is standing there watching.
Yeah.
He puts the whole thing to a pause, and he begins to instruct this running back how to receive. It was about how to receive the football from the quarterback.
The quarterback technique.
Yeah, the quarterback was doing his job. It was the running back that wasn't receiving it correctly. And he went over it, and they did it again, and he got it wrong again. He said he
Run it again.
corrected it. He explained it again. He said, run it again. They ran it again and again and again and again until this poor running back was in, and I don't remember if he was a high school coach or college football. Either way, it's interesting that this running back broke out in tears.
Oh, man.
Because he was so overwhelmed by his emotion, and he just felt like an idiot, in front of his team.
He couldn't get it right.
And he couldn't get it right.
Right.
And the coach explained to the team, he said, guys, look, this is so necessary, because if we don't get it right now, we're not going to get it right in a game, and it could mean the difference between us winning or losing a game. So we got to get it right here. In order to build a culture of critique and be able to give and receive feedback in a healthy way, emphasize the word healthy, we really need to first do two things. The first thing is we need to clearly define the win. And we talk about this a lot on this podcast. If everyone on the team understands what the win is, it makes giving and receiving feedback so much easier.
Absolutely.
We're all aiming at the same goal.
For the same thing.
For the same thing.
Yeah.
And I want to encourage you to check out episode number 6. And it's entitled, How Are We Winning? We talk about this a lot. The second thing is that we have to be intentional about making deposits.
This is
big. And we'd like to recommend another episode. That'd be episode 21, the emotional bank account.
Yeah.
And we talk about giving and receiving, making deposits and withdrawals. Okay. And so let me give a couple examples. One example I think of when it comes to deposits and withdrawals is I think about our band. Our band at Mountain Movers has a very healthy culture. There are a lot of times in the realm of music that we have to bring critique, but everybody's so close and the culture's so healthy that when we bring that critique, there have been so many deposits that have been made in these relationships. And it's happening through the week on a text thread. It's happening when we're together, just loving on each other and just having such great relationships that when that critique has to happen, it's easy peasy.
And I like to look at it honestly that if you are correcting everything, you're making slight corrections, little tweaks, right? As Pastor Ed Young would say, that take you to higher peaks.
Right.
So it's not like constantly harping on someone. That's not what we're talking about. It's making tiny critiques, tiny
little corrections constantly to make it better and better and better. And when you have a healthy team and a healthy culture, everybody wants it to be better.
You need to go back and watch that episode, but just in case you haven't yet, so that you know what we're saying when we talk about deposits, we're talking about taking the time to care about the other people on your team. So like if you have a brand new person on your team, you don't have any deposits with them yet. Like you're going to have people that have been on your team for a year, 2 years, maybe they're close to you. You've had a lot of relationships, time to build that relationship.
Relationship equity.
So like you need to make sure that you're caring about them. So asking about their day, remembering if you're saying, hey, how can we pray for you? And they tell you something going on in their life. It is a deposit the next time you see them or to text them and say, hey, how'd it go? Like following up with them. Those are the deposits we're talking about, caring about not just the position that they serve in, not just the team or the organization here at the church, but we care about you as an individual and you as a person in your life.
But even in a healthy culture, critique is often seen as a withdrawal. Critique is oftentimes difficult from either side of the table.
Sure.
The person giving the critique likely doesn't want to hurt your feelings or lose your trust.
Right.
When you are the person receiving the critique, your mind tends to want to go into fight or flight mode.
Right.
But what we have to remember is constructive critique is the feedback that is intended to help a person grow in their role. So no matter how it is given, critique will be seen as a withdrawal.
Yep.
This means that you as the leader will need to make sure that you have made plenty of those deposits into that relationship.
Absolutely. So let's talk for a little bit about giving feedback, all right? And then in our next episode, we're going to talk about receiving feedback, okay? Because there's kind of a lot involved. But right now, we're going to look at some keys. If you are a leader and you are the one giving critique, all right? Here's some things that you need to remember. First, do it out of love, okay?
It has to be the driving force.
It has to be. You know, there's a big difference between a healthy critique and criticism.
Huge.
Criticism seeks to tear a person down, while critique seeks to help them improve. Okay, the next thing that you want to do is focus on the work, not the person. So what we mean by this is each person has a role that they're playing, a position that they're playing, a specific thing they are doing, okay? We're not coming against someone when we're giving feedback. We're not talking about your character. We're not talking about you as an individual. Like a lot of times when people are receiving feedback, they take it so personal, like it's destroying their identity because they didn't measure up. And that's not what it's about at all.
It's about your performance.
Right. And so we've got to focus on the role they're playing, the position that they're playing, and stay focused on that, not on them as a person and their character or their identity.
The next thing is celebrate what's going well.
Right.
And what we're talking about is acknowledging what's already working well before addressing areas of improvement. I typically like to lead off with this. I always try to start with the positive, really try to build them up a little bit.
Yes.
Because we know that any bit of correction is going to tear them down. It's going to be seen as a withdrawal.
Little bit of a withdrawal.
A little bit of a withdrawal. So build up and then critique.
Okay, the next thing you want to do is ask questions. Ask questions like, hey, how can we make it better? What can we specifically do, or what can you specifically do to make this better? And so like in an organization, like in the church world, and we're dealing with volunteers, a lot of times when we are talking to someone and we're saying, hey, listen, I was thinking about it. What do you think we could do better in this area? Or what do you think you could do specifically? Sometimes we pull our whole team together and we'll ask that question. Hey, like, what can each of us do better so that we overall are winning, okay? And you want to be very specific. I could give a million examples, but you want to be specific into what area you're trying to get better. Then it doesn't feel like as harsh of a critique because they're like, oh, I know what I need to do better. They point out what they themselves could do. And then as a leader, you can say, you know what? Absolutely. Let's work on that. Next week, let's focus on that for you as an individual. And you've got to decide as a leader, is the feedback that you need to give, can it be given in a group setting?
Right.
Okay, like a team?
Yeah.
Or is it going to be something that would be almost embarrassing?
Yeah, a little bit better privately.
And you would need to choose to do it privately. And that is where you've got to have discernment as a leader. Another thing that you need to do is offer suggestions, but be specific, okay? So do not speak in generalities, all right? You need to point out exactly like where the improvement needs to be made. Because if you don't, sometimes we go in.
A lot of times people don't take hints.
Right. Or sometimes we say it to the whole team. Like, we need to all get better in this area.
Well, is she talking about me or is she talking about him?
Exactly.
You know?
When really nobody is quite sure, who are you talking to?
Right.
So I feel like that's kind of weak leadership. I'm not saying you can't ever do that, but you need to be very specific, especially if it is something that you need to just be very direct, like they're doing something that doesn't follow the guidelines, then you just need to be very specific about it. The other thing that I would say is that timing is everything.
It's crucial.
It is crucial. Again, you have to use discernment. There have been times, many times, while pastoring and leading people and leading teams, that we went in to have a moment where we're going to critique someone. Like in our mind, hey, I'm going to meet with so-and-so because I need to give some feedback. And it's like you start very, shallow. Hey, how you doing today? And you realize real fast, either the body language or the look on their face or what they say, they've been going through something rough.
Yeah.
Or today is an awful day, okay? I want to just encourage you, if you're a leader who is giving feedback on a regular basis, go back over these things because it is so helpful. Like, we've learned a lot of it the hard way.
Yeah.
But I will say one of the things that has helped us tremendously is have huddles with your team. And we did an episode on this. You can look it up. But do huddles, pre-huddles, post-huddles. These are opportunities where you are developing a culture that says, what did we do right? Okay? We're just going to celebrate. And then what can we make better? Guys, what can we make better is the feedback, okay? That is where the critique is coming in, but you're letting the team participate in that, and then you're reaffirming, you're right, next week, let's make that better, okay?
Well, this concludes today's episode. Hey, will you do us a favor, though, before we go? There are so many pastors, church leaders, and volunteers in small towns that truly want to see healthy growth, and you can help us to grow this podcast and get the word out by just simply sharing today's podcast, and we want to get that out to as many people than ever before. And you can do that by simply rating and reviewing this episode or this show. And wherever you consume this content, you can also share this episode with your friends on social media. That will help us a bunch. But thank you so much in advance. We'll see you next time.